In industrial foundries, molybdenum is an additive used to harden high-strength steel. But inside the human body, this same element operates as a catalyst that prevents metabolic byproducts from attacking the central nervous system. The necessity of this role is most apparent in neonates, who present with intractable seizures and deep brain necrosis within 48 hours of birth. Because these symptoms often mirror birth asphyxia, clinicians frequently assume the infant has suffered hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, or HIE. Standard chemistry panels often reveal an anomaly that suggests the trauma is metabolic rather than respiratory: severe hypouricemia. Because uric acid is the final end product of purine degradation, a concentration near zero suggests a failure in the enzymes that require molybdenum to function. To identify why these systems fail, we have to examine the architecture of element 42. This requires tracing the complex construction of its molecular cage, the consequences of industrial overloads, and the analytical methods used to measure an ultratrace element. Without recognizing this specific chemical anomaly, a physician may mistake a genetic metabolic block for an unavoidable birth injury. The total amount of molybdenum in a healthy adult is only 5 to 10 milligrams. Most of this ultratrace supply circulates in the blood, loosely bound to albumin proteins for transport to the tissues. At the cellular level, the element exists as a hexavalent molybdate anion. In this free state, however, it is biologically inert and cannot participate in the chemical reactions required by human cells. To become active, the metal must be incorporated into a tricyclic purine matrix, forming a structure known as the molybdenum cofactor, or MoCo. This cage holds the atom in a rigid orientation, functioning as the catalytic engine for 4 human enzymes. This configuration enables oxotransfer. By oscillating between oxidized and reduced states, the molybdenum atom transfers a single oxygen atom from water directly to a substrate. This specific orientation allows the reaction to occur without generating reactive free radicals that would damage the surrounding cell. The cofactor matrix effectively manages the metal's high reactivity, making it a staple tool for human detoxification and purine metabolism. One of the primary enzymes powered by this cofactor is sulfite oxidase. Located in the mitochondria, its role is to convert reactive sulfites, byproducts of amino acid degradation, into stable sulfates that can be safely excreted by the kidneys. If this enzyme fails, sulfites accumulate and attack the nervous system. These reactive anions target the myelin sheath by cleaving the disulfide bridges that maintain its structural integrity, leading to the rapid destruction of brain tissue. Because this process is essential for neural protection, the body maintains a constant supply of the element. Unlike iron or copper, the gut lacks a regulatory mechanism to block absorption, passively taking in up to 80% of ingested molybdenum regardless of current body stores. Since the gut is unregulated, homeostasis is maintained by the kidneys. The renal tubules act as a primary valve, adjusting their reabsorption rates to flush any excess molybdenum directly into the urine. This supply is then mobilized to the cells through sulfate transporters. During pregnancy, maternal transport pathways accelerate this mobilization to ensure the fetus has adequate stores to develop its own enzymatic matrix. Our neural survival depends on this balance, a renal spillway that constantly compensates for an unregulated digestive tract. While genetic failures block the use of molybdenum, industrial overloads flood the system. In mining and steel manufacturing, the inhalation of molybdenum trioxide dust sends the metal directly into the vascular space, bypassing the usual digestive controls. This influx hyperactivates xanthine oxidase, which accelerates the degradation of purines. This results in a massive surge of uric acid production, leading to severe joint pain and gout-like symptoms. Excess molybdenum also reacts with sulfur to form thiomolybdates. These compounds bind to circulating copper with high affinity, creating an insoluble complex that the body cannot break down. Treatment requires a dual approach: aggressive intravenous saline to maximize renal clearance of the molybdenum, paired with oral copper supplements to saturate the thiomolybdate traps and restore available copper levels. In these extreme cases, an element required for health becomes a systemic antagonist that starves the body of copper. To confirm a genetic metabolic block in a crashing neonate, the clinical pathologist must measure molybdenum at parts per trillion levels. This requires the use of inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry, or ICP-MS. Inside the instrument, the biological sample is introduced into an argon plasma torch burning at 8,000 Kelvin. This heat atomizes the sample, allowing the detector to isolate ions based on their specific mass-to-charge ratio. However, the measurement is highly sensitive to environmental contamination. Because molybdenum is a component of stainless steel, a standard phlebotomy needle can physically shear metal atoms into the blood sample, resulting in a falsely elevated reading. Accurate measurement requires a strict protocol, using a plastic cannula, discarding the initial flush of blood, and collecting the sample in a metal-free royal blue top trace element tube. Even with a clean sample, the laboratory must account for isobaric interference. The heat of the plasma can cause separate elements, such as arsenic and sodium, to fuse into an imposter molecule with a mass of 98, the same mass as molybdenum. To filter these out, the ion beam passes through a collision cell filled with helium. The larger imposter molecules collide with the helium, losing energy and dropping out of the beam, while smaller molybdenum atoms pass through to the detector. Achieving clinical truth in these cases requires overcoming both environmental contamination and the physics of molecular fusion. These specialized tests are reserved for patients where a metabolic block is suspected, such as neonates with severe encephalopathy or patients on long-term intravenous nutrition, where molybdenum may have been inadvertently omitted. If the lab values confirm a molybdenum cofactor deficiency, it indicates that the cells have the raw material but cannot synthesize the molybdipterin cage. Treatment involves infusions of phosphanopterin, which provides the missing intermediate substrate directly. This bypasses the genetic failure and allows the infant cells to complete the synthesis of the cofactor. This intervention is governed by a strict timeline. If the treatment begins within 14 days, it can halt sulfite accumulation before the toxic shift causes structural deep brain leukomalacia. Once the white matter of the brain has undergone physical necrosis, the damage is permanent. The management of these conditions is a study in precision. It requires the laboratory to identify a trace metabolic block at the molecular level before it results in irreversible structural injury to the brain.